There's another issue right now raised all across Europe. The excess mortality rate. According to Eurostat, in the month of July, the excess mortality rate all across European Union went up 16% more than the average of 2016 and 2019. Now, if you look on the map here, this is released by the Eurostat. It's not from us. If you look on this map, you will see that the countries with the highest vaccination rate have right now the highest mortality rate. So obviously we ask, is there a connection between being vaccinated and having a higher mortality rate? Everybody's avoiding answering this, I would say, logical question.
I remember representatives of the UK government who've now been made into dames and knights and all sorts of things, emphatically telling us that everything that was normally done in any clinical trial was done during these trials. They gave us their word about this. And let's hope that this doesn't turn out to be less than accurate. But let's look at some of the information that's now been revealed today. And you can probably tell some of us aren't very happy about this at all. It was rolled out. Ms. Small, regarding the question around did we know about stopping the immunisation before it entered the market? No. And they're the words. She said the word no. Now, this is my interpretation of this because this is only me. COVID Pfizer vaccine was not tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market. This was not done before the vaccine entered general rollout, despite us being assured that everything, all the normal stages were carried out as they would be for any new product. And yet it turns out now, we know however long it is now later, 2 years later or whatever, this wasn't done. This really is, I think this is really quite scandalous. And I certainly feel personally let down by it. I'm sure a lot of you do. Ms. Small, again, you know we had to really move at the speed of science. Now, what I'd like to do now is pause and explain to you exactly what the speed of science means. But I haven't got a flipping clue. I do know not what it is. It's just words without meaning. The speed of science. It's just words without meaning. What does that mean? What's that supposed to mean? What's it supposed to convey? Just has no meaning to me at all, unless I'm a bit stupid, of course. If Miss Small wants to come on the channel and explain it, then that's absolutely fine, of course. Maybe I'm just being a bit thick here and I don't understand what the speed of science is. But I've done two science degrees and a research degree, and I've never heard the term. So anyway, always need to learn new things. Only been doing science since I was 18. From that point,
if you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
Voor u, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
This is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed. Please share this video.
And what many people don't know, which I'm going to tell you now, is the evidence for the harms of sugar in the population and the way that labeling on foods was influencing the consumption of sugar was available as early as 2003. And the WHO were about to issue guidance saying our populations need to reduce their sugar consumption, and we're going to do our bit to make sure the food industry reduces the amount of sugar they're adding to foods and all that kind of stuff. And their guidance didn't happen. It was revoked because George Bush's government in the United States basically threatened to withdraw their funding from the WHO if they came out with guidance on reducing sugar in 2003 because they were lobbied by Coca-Cola.
Wow.
So the WHO, they do a lot of great things. They're not completely independent, and they're conflicted, and there are funding issues there as well, and people need to know what's really going on.
Me, along with many other people, over the last few years have been reminded that we're not doctors, and we're not immunologists or virologists or epidemiologists. We shouldn't be giving advice on medical issues. Well, it looks like we were more on the ball and more accurate in our assessments of the medical products being brought to market than most of the doctors, virologists, epidemiologists, etc., etc. The Pfizer-Gate scandal has broken, as it was always going to. You can't hide the outcome of what has been perpetrated on the human race forever. You can hide it for a time, but not forever. So this is broken this week. Everybody's talking about it, expecting apologies. But the damage is done. So even if they pull this product, the damage has already been done. And while this is all happening, our economies are being actively collapsed by our governments, especially in the UK, for example. Pension funds and the entire economy are on the verge of collapse. So there's other pressing issues at hand here, and while it's good that certain things are being revealed, people are feeling vindicated, it's only part of the game. When they say the house of cards is collapsing, no, a house of cards is collapsing. There are other houses of cards, and then there's the big house of cards. And boy, will that be fun when the big house of cards collapses, and it will. But for now, celebrate the good news.
Discussions and debates around the influence of gender ideology continue to get more heated and more popular, especially when it comes to its impact on children. But did you know that the world's largest professional association for trans healthcare took guidance from a castration forum that hosts child sexual abuse fantasies? Let's talk about that. On December 3rd, 2021, the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, or WPATH for short, released draft guidelines which included, for the first time, the category of eunuch as a protected gender identity. Eunuch refers to a man who has been castrated. Historically, and depending on culture, eunuchs served some distinct social roles, often in servile hierarchies like in the Ottoman Empire. But, believe it or not, some men also have castration fetishes, and those men appear to have influenced WPATH in their decision to include them in their latest guidelines. Back in May, Redux published an exclusive investigation that was the result of months of research into members of a forum called the Eunuch Archives. The Eunuch Archive had actually been referenced in WPATH's latest guidelines as a source on the eunuch gender identity. But the Eunuch Archive is no normal site. In fact, it hosts some pretty disturbing stuff. In WPATH's draft standards of care, the Eunuch Archive's fiction archive is directly acknowledged and named. But the document does not mention the large amount of stories within the archive that directly involve the sadistic sexual abuse of children. During the investigation, Redux was able to enter a password-protected area of the site within the Eunuch archives by completing a membership application. And what we found was over 3,000 stories, many of which depicted children being sexually abused and castrated. Minor was actually available as a category filter that allowed users to specifically search for erotic stories that featured children. In addition to forced surgical castrations, chemical castrations were also sexualized and eroticized. Some stories featured Nazi doctors experimenting on young boys. Another story imagined a world where the age of consent had been lowered to 12, and children could receive genital modification without parental consent. On the Eunuch Archive forums, one of the most prominent participants is a site administrator who uses the moniker Jesus. Searching through his post history, Redux found that Jesus took responsibility for several prominent decisions on gender identity, including the language used to define gender identity in the DSM-5. Jesus also said that in 2016, the president of WPATH at the time, Eli Coleman, had personally approached him to contribute to the upcoming standards of care. Redux unmasked Jesus as being Dr. Thomas W. Johnson, a professor emeritus at California State University in Chico. Johnson had been an active participant in the forum since 2001, just years after the Eunuch Archive site was created. He has also conducted several surveys with forum members and published their responses in academic journals, including one released by WPATH, the International Journal of Transgenderism. Johnson has given lectures on expanding the transgender umbrella and is an active member of the Cal State campus pushing gender ideology even today. In addition to Johnson, the identities of 2 other leading site members were also revealed in our exclusives. Dr. Richard J. Wassersug, a professor from Canada, has for over 20 years used the alias Eunuch Unique on the forum, while Krister H. Willett has been active in the community since 1998 under the screen name Christoph. In June 2009, Willett was invited by WPATH to speak on eunuch identity disorder, along with Wassersug and Johnson, at a conference in Oslo. There are 2 disturbing videos of Willett posted to his YouTube channel. In both, he is dressed in a nun's habit, holds a cigar, and shouts obscenities. In Sister Krister on Cussing, he roleplays as though addressing an audience of children while reading from a list of swear words. Johnson and Wassersug have previously released academic research justifying the pedophilic fantasies amongst the castration fetishists on the forum. I've barely scratched the surface of the disturbing information Redux's investigations pulled up, but through it all, the most important thing to remember is that these were the people informing the world's largest trans medical association on aspects of what defines gender identity. I mean, think about it. Men whose fantasies include castrating young boys are working alongside a medical body which recommends chemical castration to children in the form of puberty blockers. These are the very same drugs that are given to chemically castrate convicted sex offenders, by the way. Unsurprisingly, despite how damning it all is, it's gone totally overlooked by the mainstream media. But that's why Redux is here, to bring you the truth no matter who gets offended by it.
We need our government officials. They're experts in politics. They are not experts in medicine. They're not experts in public health. And we need to stop having them pretend like they are. What they're doing is all they're capable of doing is parroting what these other organizations tell them. So we have to take these kind of health policies out of the hands of these politicians who really don't have the expertise to deal with this. And the other thing I guess I would say is we saw these committees formed. Committees formed in order to provide advice to our governments during this time. We need to really consider how these committees are put together. And again, and the number one thing in terms of the solution moving forward is we have to end all of the censorship. We have to get back to allowing free discussions about the science. That's iron sharpens iron. That's how science has always worked. Scientists, we are trained to be open to and to accept criticism from others and deal with it constructively, right? If we see reasons why somebody's criticism doesn't seem valid, we're welcome to try and change their mind through reasoned scientific arguments, and they're welcome to do the same to us. And as scientists, we have to be obligated to follow the overall weight of the science. So we have to restore this freedom to practice science and medicine the way it's supposed to be, which is open dialogue. And through open dialogue, and the public being able to witness this open dialogue, they are ultimately going to be able to make the most informed decisions possible to ensure that their health is maximized.